see if this looks familiar. You carve chips like this, no problem. Maybe minor cleanup, but generally 3 cuts, the thing pops out, no problem. And then you get to a chip like this, and something like this happens. Cutting across the grain on this, nice clean cut there. You come to this cut, no problem, and then continue around for the final one. It doesn't come out. And maybe in this case it almost did, but you end up with this bit right here in the middle. If it might have had a bit more hung up and that chip wouldn't have popped out, or if it were deeper or whatever, but clearly there's wood that I'm not cutting there. And so I want to talk a bit about what causes that. So even, with that cleanup there, I didn't go quite deep enough, but there's still that thing in the middle that's not quite wanting to come. And the reason is because of this wide angle that we have. These are tighter acute angles, and then this one is a wide obtuse angle. And what's happening is we're drawing the knife this way toward ourselves with the normal carving motion, and in order to get the depth as the chip gets wider, you have to push the knife tip down. And the ratio, the relative difference between how much I'm drawing toward me and how much I'm pushing down on a tighter angle like this is smaller. So I'm able to mostly focus on pulling toward me, and this line here down the middle is the path that the tip of the knife needs to follow as it goes down inside the chip. And you can see it's kind of close. It's not parallel, but it's a fairly close line to the one that the blade is making. And so it's pretty easy for me to push the tip that amount relative. But on this chip, this angle between what I'm carving the blade edge and the tip is a greater angle, so I need to actually push the tip further relative to how much I'm drawing it. And so if you don't do that, it's easy to end up doing something like this, where right now the tip of my blade is right about here. And so we've got this distance right here that I'm not cutting. So the one solution that you could do is just to realize that, and when you're making these cuts, make sure that you push the tip of the blade down into that middle before you start drawing it out. And that might work. My preferred solution is generally to carve toward these wide angles. So let me do another triangle here. So do it the same as I demonstrated the first time. And on these wide angles, you also need to be aware of the point of the knife is currently lagging the edge. So the edge of the knife is on the point, but the tip isn't. So when I get to this wide angle, I need to kind of tip the knife up and drive the point down. Now, instead of starting or continuing, going around the triangle, instead of continuing here and coming this way because of this wide angle, one solution or one way around that issue is actually to always carve starting at a tighter angle and moving toward the wider angle. So in this case, now, as soon as I get there, I connect them up, and it's a perfectly clean chip, nothing left, no residue down in the middle to work with. So I think something to be aware of when you're doing even something simple like a three-corner chip. It's one of the basic designs of chip carving, but something like this can cause a bit of a hiccup or hang up in your carving. So to be aware of when you come into that, to consider if you want to try to carve from the tight angle into the wide one, which I think gives, at least for me, usually gives better results, to keep the tip of the knife and the blade kind of more doing the same thing. They're both coming in the same direction instead of trying to fight each other. But if for whatever reason you do need to or prefer to carve from the wide angle, just make sure that you're driving that tip of the knife down before you start pulling, because you don't want to do this and now you missed that distance.